She's got her pep in her step. She's up and about after an extraordinary win by her beloved Penrith Panthers. The Brisbane Broncos. Welcome, Lil P, to this week's NRL Banter Box.
Hello, Professor. We've hit the pointy end of the season where form meets pressure and only the toughest can survive. What will unfold in the grand final and the upcoming weeks? We shall see. Back to you.
We saw some magnificent matches, and we will especially give a lot of attention to what unfolded there in Canberra. Raiders versus the Broncos in week one of the finals. But before we talk about week one and before we get to week two as a preview in the finals, let's firstly begin with who is celebrating their birthdays this week.
Yeah, well, Professor, we have quite a few birthdays this week, starting with mates, brothers actually, Ryan and Toby Couchman celebrating today, as well as Mitchell Moses and Jaden Sullivan. This Saturday it is Isaiah Papali'i's birthday, followed by Lika Halasima on Sunday. Happy birthday, fellas, and we will see you in the 2026 season.
Oh, happy birthday indeed, and they will enjoy, for some of them, a spectacular off-season. Don't eat too many meat pies. Keep that body in good condition, and we look forward to seeing you next year. Now, who is this week's Who Am I?
Yeah, Professor, this week's Who Am I actually isn't too tricky, so don't have to listen too closely, but do listen in. I was born and raised in Sydney with proud Samoan heritage. I grew up in Mount Druitt and first came through the Penrith Panthers junior system. I'm not the tallest player on the field, but I'm known for my powerful runs, huge hit-ups, and plenty of energy. I've won multiple premierships with the Panthers and represented both New South Wales in State of Origin and Samoa on the international stage. Off the field, I'm always smiling, love my family and community, and even proposed to my wife on the field after a grand final. Who am I? We'll get back to you with the answer for this one, listeners, at the end of the episode, so stay tuned.
Oh, thanks, Lil P. So let's dive into week one of the finals. And we saw the first match, Storm, get over the top of the Bulldogs in a very tight contest. But what were some of the other highlights that caught your eye? And then we'll talk about the other side of that coin, the lowlights, what we didn't like. Beginning with what you liked.
Yeah, Professor, I had quite a few highlights. I had three, with one of them being the Broncos. I think I was absolutely speechless. That's probably my game of the year, the best Broncos game I've ever watched, and the best finals game I've ever watched. I think the Raiders, as some would say, they lost a game that they won twice, essentially meaning that they celebrated twice, but thinking they'd won, but they didn't, and they ended up losing that game to an incredible, little bit dodgy field goal by Ben Hunt, but totally deserved, and I feel that was his revenge from the 2015 grand final. Yeah, the Broncos, they were in great form. The first half was quite cat and mouse, but in the second half, the Raiders got a bit of a lead. But the Broncos, once they get one try, they can get way more after that. So that was a very cat and mouse game at the start, but they really caught up the Broncos and they won the game, which made my family screaming, and we were running onto the balcony. And it was the best day ever for me, seeing the Broncos win a game like that. I also like Trindle of the Sharks, beautifully reading the Roosters' defence, scoring great tries, just sliding into that defence line with butter. Yes, great tries scored by him, and great game attitude as well, smart plays. And finally, my last highlight was Nathan Cleary. Very smart kicking by him, and you can just see him thinking, okay, well, if in these conditions, rainy and windy, if I kick a certain way like this will make it hard for them to get the ball, and if the ball bounces this way, like, it's just thinking like this ahead, and that these smart kicks, this is what makes you one of the best kickers in the game, like he is. So, yeah, when he really needs it, he can really deliver in his kicking. So that's what he did, and hopefully he will do it against the Bulldogs in the upcoming round. But we will get into that later in the predictions. What about you for your highlights, Professor?
Wow, just quickly on Nathan Cleary, are you hoping that he does the same if they meet at Suncorp Stadium there in 2 weeks' time, Little P? Will Nathan Cleary be bringing his best to Suncorp Stadium? But of course, they need to beat the Bulldogs in the elimination finals this week. For me, continuing on the theme of the Bulldogs and what they delivered there on Friday night against the Storm, despite them losing, this was a actually much closer match than the scoreboard would indicate. This was a team that faced a lot of adversity. Crichton went out with an injury. They had a number of other key players who were injured on and off during the match, and they had to reshuffle and reposition where key players were playing on the chessboard on the day. And the DNA of this side is tough. They were mentally resilient, and Penrith, look out. You've got a really tough contest when you meet them in the elimination final this week. So a highlight for the Bulldogs. My second highlight was, well, it was a spectacular rugby league victory for everyone that experienced and witnessed what a amazing match the Sunday contest was between the latter leading minor premiers of the Canberra Raiders, who were taking on the Broncos, who went down to Canberra as underdogs. This was a match that was so riveting that even Mrs. Professor joined me in the final moments of the match. When Canberra scored that winning try, she went off to go for a shower, and I had to get her out of the shower and said, the match hasn't finished yet. You need to come back. Reece Walsh, what a spectacular performance. And what I particularly liked was his kicking game, Lil P. 2 40-20 kicks. They were more like 30-70s or 70-30s, however you want to describe it. But he got sent to the bin. The Broncos were down by 16 points, and they still overcame the Canberra Raiders. That is one for the memory books. Remember that where you were and how you enjoyed that spectacular win, Lil P. And now you can enjoy your team having a week off, and they can look forward to meeting the winner of the Bulldogs and Penrith. Now, that's what we liked. Let's turn over the other side of the coin, Lil P, and what were some of the lowlights for you?
Yeah, well, Professor, as much as it pains me to say this, the Raiders, they had so many opportunities to turn the game around in the golden point minutes and just beat the Broncos by 1 or 2 points in the points difference. Yeah, the Raiders, honestly, they just needed to kick the field goal. They had so many opportunities, and you need to kick it not when you can, not when you need it, but when you can. It's there's no decision needed. You just kick it. But they didn't do that. They were going for a try, which didn't happen. So they had an opportunity and they screwed it up, and the Broncos won. But yeah, I'm glad Ben Hunt was the one that got to kick the winning field goal. On the topic of the Broncos, Adam Reynolds, I think he's going to be coming back against a clash with either a grand final rematch against the Panthers or the Bulldogs. With him coming in and with Billy Walters coming out because of an injury, I believe, I hope he comes in with that selfless attitude like always, but I don't want him to mess up the flow of the Broncos right now. Like, coming off hot of beating Storm, they beat the Raiders, which were at the top of the table, the minor premiers. It was a tough match, but they did it. They won. That's all that really matters. And with Adam Reynolds coming back in, yes, he's a good kicker. We do need him. But I do not want to mess up the flow of them right now. Right now, I think they're looking like grand final favourites from many. So, yeah, with Adam Reynolds coming back, I really don't want him to mess up the flow.
Yeah, just on that note of the selections that are coming for Madge Maguire, I also wonder how far away Ezra Mann is and what does he do there. If I was Coach Maguire, I wouldn't change it, Lil P. I believe Walters is under some injury cloud, so that may put him in doubt for the preliminary final in 2 weeks' time, but I wouldn't be changing it. It's working. It's not broken. Don't need to fix it. It's a tough decision leaving a classy halfback like Adam Reynolds on the sideline, but I wouldn't do it. I mean, it's clearly working. So lowlights for me was Ashley Klein, and I didn't agree with his decision with the little head nudge there from Reece Walsh on the second row for the Canberra Raiders. I don't think Hudson Young, as the recipient of that head nudge, he deserved to go for 10 minutes in the bin. And the other lowlight for me was the Roosters. Now, the Roosters, they were actually dominating that second half, but they only have themselves to blame. Too many errors in that second half, and it was a game that just slipped away from them. This was a team that finished in 8th position, and they probably got what they deserved with a Sharks performance that was much stronger in the end. Now, on that note, Little P, we have 2 teams that have exited the competition now. The Penrith Panthers, they beat the Warriors over there in New Zealand on the weekend. So the Warriors now exit, and they can look forward to the off-season in 2026. And then we have the Roosters, as we've mentioned, they've lost, so they are now out of the finals race. So just thinking about the overall season of the Roosters, what would be your grade from A to F, and give me the reasoning of that grade?
Well, Professor, I'll just start off with my grade. I would probably give them about a B plus. They definitely exceeded my expectations of what I thought they would be, and they didn't go below at all. So we'll start off at the start of the season. So their very first game against the Broncos, right, in round 1, the scoreboard, I believe, was 50-14. So they got absolutely smashed by the Broncos. So not the best start to the season. And then you get to the pointy end at the end, and they were winning huge games, putting on so many points on their opposition. They smashed, I can't even remember. There were so many teams that they smashed. I can't even store it in my brain. But yeah, they were really, really good towards the end and didn't have the best start. So yeah, they would probably even out to be about a B plus. Just really smart plays. Not the best defense though, in my opinion.
Yeah, the most predictions experts at the beginning of the season didn't have the Roosters making the top 8. So based on what they did achieve, which is to secure that top 8 position, I think that's it's beaten the expectations there. But the Roosters are kind of like the Cowboys when you look at that team on paper. So many state of origin stars. Sam Walker came back about 3 quarters into the season, and that made a significant impact and positive difference for the team. Yeah, my grading was about a C plus. Will Daly Cherry Evans actually improve that side in 2026? Wow, that is a big question, and one that we can dive into next year's podcast series, Little P. So let's have a talk about the New Zealand Warriors. This was a team that were very comfortably nestled in the top 4 position, but they eventually fell out of form in the last few rounds. What was your assessment?
Yeah, well, Professor, I just feel like the Warriors, they're a very inconsistent team along with many. Their points difference on the ladder at the end of the season, they were only winning games by like golden points and stuff like that. They got smashed at the start of the season to the Raiders 30-8. And then again then just a week after that they really dominated over the Sea Eagles, so really inconsistent from them. Some games were very close, some were not. Some were great from them, some were not. It's just, you need consistency in a team, and you would go into a game thinking, all right, are they going to be smashed, or are they going to really deliver and exceed my expectations? So a very inconsistent team, I'd probably give them about a C minus.
C minus, yeah. The New Zealand Warriors are quite a conservative. Probably they became more boring, particularly when Luke Metcalf had that serious injury and is ruled out for the remainder of the season. He was joined by their forward and co-captain Mitchell Barnett, who was also ruled out for the rest of the season. That happened midway through the season, and those two key players just had a significant impact on the team. Now, there are some green shoots. There are some emerging young players in that team. And Coach Webster, he can take a lot of inspiration and positive signals heading into 2026. I believed he squeezed as much as he could in performance. And this is a gritty, spirited team. They exceeded the expectations for me. Their grading's a B. So, Little P, let's jump into it. We are heading into the elimination round. Once again, 2 matches. The loser of those 2 matches exits the competition. We have the Canberra Raiders, who 5.5 days after their spectacular loss there to the Brisbane Broncos on Sunday, they're backing it up. They're at home. and they're taking on the Sharks. What do you think? This is a really interesting one.
Well, Professor, I think the Raiders, they weren't actually bad against the Broncos. It was just a lucky goal by Ben Hunt. They became a bit relaxed, and I think they're sort of a team where they do get relaxed when they are ahead by quite a big margin. So I have a feeling that that's going to happen again in this game. The Sharks, they put 20 points. There was a 10-point difference, so not the most amount. I don't know for this one, Professor. I think the Sharks, they're a bit of an inconsistent team as well. They've got Fanua Blake, though. They've got Nico Hines. So I do have a bit of faith in them. So I'm going to pick an upset here. I'm going to go the Sharks.
Yeah, I think it's a lot closer than what many would suggest. The Raiders very concerned about their energy levels, the psychological, emotional toll that would have taken on that team for a game that they lost twice, or a game that they won twice, should I say. The Sharks are right in this. Sharks are not sort of aesthetically a very pleasing team on the eye, but they're tough, they're gritty. They go to Canberra Stadium with nothing to lose, everything to gain, of course. This is going to be really close, but I'm slightly, without too much confidence, going to lean towards the home side and the Raiders to proceed to the preliminary final, where the winner of this match will meet Melbourne Storm in Melbourne. So that's on Saturday night. And then we go to Sunday afternoon, another spectacular Sunday afternoon of action. Now, this is the Bulldogs, who were brave and close in their previous encounter with the Melbourne Storm in week one of the finals. They're taking on the Penrith Panthers, who return home from New Zealand. What do you think?
Well, Professor, I have a bit of a theory for this one. I just came up with it, actually. So earlier in the year, remember when the Broncos, they overcame the Bulldogs and many other games the Bulldogs lost? Yeah, Professor, most of these games, about I think 70% of the games that the Bulldogs lost, they were in rain. So in wet conditions like that and in important games like that, especially against Penrith, how's that going to play out? So I have a feeling if it's wet or if the grass is really dewy, I don't know about that, Professor. And I think considering Panthers coming off lots of momentum after overcoming the Warriors, I think the Panthers will get over the top of the Bulldogs. But that's something to think about, listeners and Professor. Think about the weather. How do the teams react with the climate? We shall see.
Now, last occasion these two sides met, it was one of the games of the season. It was a very low-scoring affair, and Penrith ran away with a victory on that occasion. I'm picking an upset here, Lil P. This is a team, the Bulldogs, who are tough. They were very, very close to the Melbourne Storm there the week previous, and I'm picking an upset here. This will be a euphoric crowd and a home ground advantage for the Bulldogs, and I'm tipping them in an upset to beat the Panthers and to go north to Brisbane to take on your beloved Broncos the week after, to be one game away potentially from the preliminary final. So before we wrap it up, Lil P, let's close it out in revealing to us who was this week's Who Am I?
Yeah, Professor, a beautiful proposal after the Penrith Grand Final. Of course, Brian To'o, a great player, and my probably least favourite New South Wales Blues player. That was Brian To'o, everyone. I hope you all got that.
Oh, that was a really good one. Well, thank you very much. And thank you, Lil P. Good luck and rest up for your Brisbane Broncos. And we can look forward to two fantastic matches on Saturday and Sunday this week. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can email us at nrlbanterbox@gmail.com. We love receiving your emails, and we'll speak to you and you'll hear from us this time next week. Thanks, Lil P.
Bye, Professor.